What is up, PCC family? Happy Monday. If you're listening to this on the day that it comes out, and if you're not, then happy whatever day of the week it is. And today, I'm going to be covering how to quiet information overload when getting started in your fat loss journey, because this is one of the most common things that I have seen with people lately. And as you'll kind of see, a lot of the episodes that will be released in the next few weeks and the last couple episodes that have been released as well are really pertinent to some of the most common things that I'm hearing from you all directly, and just truly addressing that. Because I'll be honest, I have a lot of conversations with a lot of different women who are interested in enrolling in our program, and it's just hard to give a full lowdown, like a full picture of absolutely everything that is required to fully understand the issue with one person when I've got 45 minutes. And my main goal is to really understand them and not lecture them. And so I try to keep it in bite-sized pieces, but this will allow me to hand you literally on a silver platter the answers that you need, and not sparing any details so that you actually understand it fully, rather than just seeing little snippets of things here and there on social media and still being confused, because that's literally the problem we're breaking down today. So here's what I've been seeing. I've been seeing a ton of women who just feel really discouraged because there's so much stuff online that it literally makes it even more intimidating to start anything, because they don't want to start the wrong thing. And they also are like second guessing everything, because social media and the internet says, this is your problem. No, this is your problem. No, this is your problem. And so even if you did start with something, you're second guessing it the whole time. So you're not fully bought into whatever it is you are doing, because everyone's saying that your problem is actually something else, to the point of possibly discrediting your own efforts and or quitting before you actually see anything come to fruition, because you can't stay focused because of the information being spewed at you. It's like trying to drink from a fire hose, right? Um, it's also really frustrating because typically in this situation, there's not any results happening, because you're trying a lot of things, but that's kind of the key word, like trying and like testing out what all these influencers and gurus and coaches online are saying. And a lot of times, what that results in is just people really feeling safe to, or only feeling safe to, going back to what they have been successful with in the past. And so a lot of times those things that they've been successful with in the past, like we almost even know that they're not the best option. They're not the most sustainable, realistic, helpful, or feasible. But we try to go back to those because at least I know it worked last time, rather than trying something new, because trying something new is really overwhelming, right? And so basically, this can also lead to a lack of results, because if you're doing all the same things that you once did and they're not working, then you're kind of just repeating the same things over and over again. And that's the definition of insanity. And if you are that person who is doing a bunch of things that you used to and it's not working, you can listen to the last episode. And it often also results in this, like, what's the point sort of mentality or mindset, where we kind of put in some effort, we don't see results, and we think to ourselves, well, I don't even know if this is right. I don't even know if this is what's right for me. I don't even know. So what's the point of even doing this in the first place? And it just leads to a lot more quitting, spinning our wheels, and not getting anywhere than I would like to see from people that I talk to. I would like for you to win. I'd like for you to be successful. So what this creates is, if I had to label it, a lot of what I call program hopping. So kind of just jumping from thing to thing to thing. Like, I went from this influencer's workouts to this workout app to this program to back to Beachbody to blah, 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 right? Never really sticking with one thing, whether that's under the guise of I get bored easily, or because everyone's shoving something in your face that's going to be the best thing for you. And the mentality that, like, the grass is always greener, there's always something better on the other side, what I'm doing isn't enough, this mentality that you're not doing enough with whatever resources you have, with whatever time you have, with whatever energy you have. Because you'll see these influencers that say, oh, all you need to do is to do this morning routine with this mushroom coffee and get up, get in the sunlight, spend an hour journaling, do an hour of yoga, and then, oh my God, your day's going to be great. It's like, no. And you feel like you're not doing enough because you're not doing what they're doing, when in reality, what they're doing is not right for you. And it really makes you feel like the basics aren't enough because everyone's adding layers to things, complications to things. It's not just habits. It's also your hormones, and it's also your gut, and it's also your brain chemistry, and it's also did you know that you will probably have ADHD on top of that? Like, I'm just going off of the Instagram ads that I get, and I don't even like I am just imagining how much worse it would be for someone who's actively looking to lose weight. And Instagram hears that, picks up on that, and is preying on you with those targeted ads, right? And so just remember that marketing is designed to create more problems for you. That is literally how marketing works, is human psychology. It's make people aware of the problems that they have or that they don't even know that they have. And I was taught those principles in business. And that's the line I'm always trying to walk. Like, how do I do that in a way that's ethical, that makes sense, and doesn't contribute to this problem? And it also results in paralysis analysis. Paralysis analysis is looking at all the things, analyzing all the things, maybe even shopping around, maybe even looking at program to program, having calls after calls with, I've had actually a couple conversations with women who are like, you're like my 10th discovery call with an online coaching service and just can't make up my mind. And it's like, oh my gosh, well, that is actually preventing you from making any progress too. Like, holding on actually doing anything until you make a decision, that is holding you back too. So and really, this is not to your fault, right? If you're listening to this, you're like, yeah, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me. It's not your fault. Like, I'm not saying like you should know better. Like, no, you are obviously in this position for a reason. You don't know what's truly best for you, and that's kind of the root of the issue, right? Is when you don't know what's truly best for you, you can't like just selectively ignore things. Like, the good thing about, even though I get all these ads that I've been able to tell you guys about, I'm able to kind of look at it from a different lens because I'm looking at it from like a marketing aspect of like, why is this ad being targeted to me? Why is this working versus not? Why is this keeping me watching versus not? But I can also kind of just shut it off because I'm like, oh, that doesn't apply to me. Like, haha, that's funny, but no. And then there's others where I'm like, maybe there's an area that I don't know much about. Recently, I've been getting a lot of skincare and hair ads and fashion ads. And those ones really get me because I actually don't know a lot about those industries or how like your skin actually should be nourished. I don't know much about how your hair should actually be nourished. So I kind of am more victim to that, because if they point out problems and things that I can resonate with, I'm like, oh, that's totally it. That's totally it. And I'm more succumbed to buying it because I can't shut it off if I don't know the answer. And so if you don't know the answer for your weight loss, for your body, for your nutrition, for your workouts, then you're going to be much more likely to feel victim to all of the things that are targeting you. And that's really, I think it's not something to be ashamed of. It's just something to be a signal to you of like, you, especially if you are somebody who says, I know what I need to do, I just need to do it. I would be willing to bet that it's not as simple as like just whatever you're thinking you need to do, because if you did know those things, you'd be able to shut out the noise. And so here's where the solution is. And basically, you might be able to guess based on what I've been kind of saying up to this point, but the answer is figuring out what is truly best for you. And the only way to actually figure out what works for you and what doesn't is with commitment for extended periods of time. And what information overload creates is the opposite, is a lot of hopping around, trying different things and not really giving anything a full chance. And this is much, much easier said than done. I will say that. And I will not, discredit the effort that this would take. However, this is something that a lot of us are really vulnerable to right now. And it's really, really important that we do take action against it, because that's how you're going to get out of the pattern. So, what I mean by commitment and action and committing to long periods of time is committing for long enough that you actually know if something works or not. And so, whenever you are trying a new routine, I think many of us have a warped perception on how long something should take before we actually know whether or not it quote unquote works. And there's some flawed thinking to that statement too, because it depends on what we're talking about. But like, let's say if you were to use time restricted feeding, intermittent fasting, this is really popular. So it's a good example. And trying to figure out if it quote unquote works for you. So first you have to really think about what works really means. Like, does it elicit weight loss, or does it just provide the framework that allows weight loss to be easier for you? Because that alone could make a huge difference, right? And how you view that tool, because it is just a tool for your goals. And so when it comes to that, you can ask yourself, okay, how long would it really need to take to see if it works? And when it comes to something like weight loss, a lot of times it might take a couple weeks to adjust to get into something, and then you want to expect to see results from there. And that's really what's realistic. So I would say giving something at minimum, at least 30 days as like a warm up period to even see if something is tactically feasible after some troubleshooting. And then 60 to 90 days for a habit, for a tool, for a mechanism for weight loss after that. And if you see no change in 60 to 90 days, and you've been consistent, you've been adherent, and you've followed whatever principles that you followed, then maybe no, that iteration of that tool didn't work. And the reason why I don't say that tool as a whole is because the way you use something matters. So, for example, or even the way that something is designed to be working for you. So maybe time restricted feeding would have worked if it was a different set of hours. But because of the way this guru explained it to you, you took it as it's my way or the highway. So I have to do it this way. And that didn't work for me. This happens a lot with online coaching. We work with a lot of clients who have had negative experiences with other online coaches in the past because they just felt like someone was not actually listening to them, not actually hearing them, not actually giving them the time, attention, care, or solutions that they needed. And they always say, their intent was good. They were a good person. I really liked them, but just wasn't what I needed. And the reality is, it doesn't mean that online coaching doesn't work. It means that that person and their modalities of coaching were not the best for you. And the sooner you're able to really distinguish what quote unquote working means, and figuring out that length of commitment that you can stick with something and see reliable results or not, is key. And the reality is just it's longer than you want it to be. I'm thinking of one client in particular who we've had to try a lot of stuff to figure out what works for them. And they are going through a lot of really challenging health issues right now that we're trying to navigate. And it requires more than just a couple weeks of consistency on certain habits, protocols, procedures. And that's not easy to do. And it's very discouraging when you've been in a rut for a long time and you're trying to get yourself out of it, and you have to just try something for like 2 months before you can decide if it works. What? But that truly is the answer. And ultimately, you have to think of it this way. If you were to take no action, if you were to just stay in the information overload, then you're definitely not getting anywhere, because you're just going to do exactly what you've been doing. Nothing changes for you. Nothing just comes in there and swoops in and saves you like Superman. I wish that there could be something that does. And that's how they market pills and weight loss drugs and those sorts of things. But there are downsides to those too. And so I think it's important to remember that the only person that can change you is you. The only person that can truly change your life, change your behavior, and figure out what works for you is you. It is in your hands. And I say that not as something to discourage you, but to encourage you in the fact that you have power over that. And all it takes is you deciding to commit, deciding to actually give something a go, to put your faith and your hope in something, which again, that's another easier said than done when you've been let down, time and time again. But the only way that you get anywhere is by trusting, by hoping, by taking that leap, rather than sitting around and almost pitying yourself because a bunch of stuff hasn't worked for you. That's, you're allowed to have those feelings. And I've had those feelings about other things in my life. But at a certain point, you have to realize that that's not the avenue to get you out of where you are. And a lot of people just stay stuck in that self-pitying pattern. And so commit to the basics, commit to stuff that can be really easily well followed for 60 to 90 days, and determine the efficacy of that from there. And sometimes something doesn't work because it's not feasible for you to follow, like time restricted feeding windows or specific diets or things that are really restrictive. And that's why I say commit to the basics, commit to things that can actually be committed to for that period of time without a massive amount of sacrifice. And when you do that, and when you really give something your all, you are able to now have the information to say that truly does work, or I don't think that's the right fit for me. Both are good pieces of information to have. Neither are failures, because either you have made progress or you didn't, and now you know one thing that is no longer practical, feasible, or realistic for you. And you can move forward into your next experience, whether that is a coach that you hire, a program that you follow, whatever it is, and say, I know that I need X, Y, and Z. I actually had a conversation like this yesterday that inspired part of this kind of talk that I'm giving you today, in that one person that I've talked to had a subpar coaching experience. And I don't even know who the person was, so I can't name names, but just too passive of a coaching experience. I felt like I couldn't show up for my coach and be held accountable. I felt like I was just going to be told that everything is okay. And that's not helpful. Like, I'm in a place where I really want to be pushed. I want to be held to a higher standard. And that's what I need from you guys. And I was like, heck yeah. Well, now we know, right? Now we can go in, because you now have that information that equips you and equips us and allows us to serve you better. So communication is key there. And I think, just, again, commit to something for extended periods of time. Use failures as information to inform what you need moving forward, rather than using it for self-pity. And lastly, I'm going to say this every time: hire help that is high quality, that is truly going to be in your corner, that's actually going to listen to you, and that's going to help you quiet the noise. Sometimes, even with your best self efforts, social media is too overwhelming. And you need somebody to be a filter between all the shit that you're seeing, to answer your questions and mute the noise. And that's what a lot of our coaches do for our clients. Is our clients will ask us, I saw this ad, I saw that. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? I have clients that have been working with me for over 3 years that still ask questions like that are like, what do you think about sugar? What do you think about time restricted feeding? And they're not stupid questions. It's just the fact that the internet preys on us. So those questions will come up time and time again. And so we teach our clients how to disseminate this information online, how to figure out what is BS and what is a promise that is too good to be true, what is just great marketing versus actual sustainable results, and what is actual sustainable advice, who to follow, who not to follow. And we serve as that too for our clients. And so I think it's more than just, being told what to do. If you think that coaching is just being told, here's your plan, go do it, that's not the case at all. It's talking you off the ledge when you want to quit. It's really being that filter to take that gigantic funnel of information that's being shot at you like a fire hose, and actually titrating it so you just get one drop at a time, the drop that you need, and the drop that actually is going to move you forward. So that is really the role that we play for our clients, and how we can mute the noise if you do decide to hire the support. That's what a good coach should do for you. So that is how to quiet the noise. That is the full lowdown on information overload. It comes from experience. It comes from doing. It comes from trying. It comes from, most importantly, committing and being able to know in your gut that you gave something your absolute all. You followed it the way it's supposed to be followed. You adapted when you needed to adapt, and it did not work the way that you wanted it to work. And that is a learning lesson, not a failure, which continues to inform your experience. And I think when you look at all your experiences as lessons learned and things gained, you're able to make more informed decisions and get smarter over time and feel less overwhelmed over time because you're able to look at the market, you're able to look at the things that are offered with a more critical eye and more skepticism and more discerning and more discernibility. And when you can do that, then you're going to be successful in the long run because now you have that information filter in your mind. And if you can't do it on your own, it's okay to have help for that. And that is a role that a great coach serves. And it's okay to lean on that for a while until you learn how to do it yourself. So those are the ways that you can quiet the noise. I hope that this was helpful for you. If you have been experiencing information overload and overwhelm, I hope that this has served as a good BS filter for you and that you'll come back to this anytime you're feeling overwhelmed. And I will look forward to seeing you back here next week. Thanks for listening.